Good morning, everybody. I like to start the show off with a simple statement. It is a good morning if you can hear my voice. If you cannot hear my voice, well, it's not a good morning. Good morning to everybody. This is Attorney Clinton Paris, and you are listening live to Intech News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. And I am one of the co-hosts of Straight Up the Middle. And I like to bring to the microphone my co-host, none other than Professor Tony Seabrook. Good morning, Professor. How you doing?
I'm grieving, but I'm here. It is a good morning. I'm in a grieving season. I told you that early on. I just don't have my sackcloth, so just imagine me in my sackcloth. I'm grieving, and I don't know when it's going to stop.
Now, listen, I'm on the road again. I mean, this Saturdays have been crazy this month already. My daughter's in a cheerleading competition, so I am perched up outside the venue, waiting to go inside to watch them win their seventh. Uh, and you can hear fire trucks going by in the background. I've got an audience standing off to my side over here, like, what's this guy doing? Talking to the phone. But we are here for competing in the state cheerleading competition, and so didn't want to miss the show. They go on at 11:30, so I figured I'd step in real quick, Professor. But I heard you say you're in a grieving season. But you've only had 1 week ish without Trump. How does that feel? 1 week without Trump.
1 week without Trump, and already 17 executive orders. So I'm a man of stats because I can't memorize them. So I have to go and I look at it, and already 17 executive orders. This guy's on the job, at least that's what he says. But I think the record was Trump had 4 in his first week. Obama had 8 executive orders, and this guy shows up with 17 executive orders. So yeah, that pretended for a very good 4 years for us.
I mean, the thing I caught was governing. It's action. I mean, I don't know that we need to, and thankfully he's coming in as a former vice president, a lot of time in the Senate. He knows what he wants to do, and I like the idea that he's getting to work. I mean, the impression was, this guy really didn't want to be president. He's just kind of running. He's old. He just, but he's coming in with, looks like he's got some agenda items. Irrespective of the fact that he did not have the assistance of the prior administration getting his transition team in place, but he came in going at it hard, and 17 broad sweeping executive orders, I think, speak well to he wants to get things done and make a difference. The other thing I would, and I'm not going to have as many more chances to do this as I'd like. It's another chance to take a shot at Trump. He wasn't doing jack for the last couple of months. And there's a lot of things in this country that are all messed up that we need to get cleaned up. I mean, like, I'll give you a good example. He started his administration with an unfact-based ban on Muslim travel. It was one of the silliest, racist things we've ever allowed in this country since the Japanese internment. And it has stood there since he's been in office, preventing these people from traveling to and from families, from reconnecting, students, all kinds of things for no real factual reason. That thing's got to go. That was one of the items. The Keystone Pipeline. He came in, he said, I've not been in favor of this thing. Hey, guess what? America voted for him. So guess what? Sorry about that, Canada. Shut that thing down and let's reevaluate it and look and see what we're doing.
Okay.
And the list goes on. I'm just saying that these things that he did with the executive orders are consistent with what he ran on. So I'm excited to see him take action.
Okay. You said a mouthful. Canada's not too happy about that, but you acknowledge that.
That sounds like my wife when she walks by. I said, but did I say anything that's pertinent or relevant? That's the question.
Well, here's the thing, especially talking about the travel ban. The countries that he listed, they weren't far-fetched. And the discussion was had then, he hadn't done anything that was really out of bounds than what previous administrations had done as far as the travel ban. But then let's also, we can't keep that separate of what happened with now that we've been dealing with COVID for a year. Why even entertain a ban on travel, we still need to take care of what's going on because God knows you guys beat him up about a virus that came from China. And we'll talk about, I saw a lot of Asian people. If it had been Trump and his inauguration had a bunch of Russian people, you guys, I think some would have just completely passed away on inauguration day in 2017. I'm sure they would have just died there had they seen what we had to witness on this inauguration. But let's get past that. But still, the travel ban, that's the left has a problem with that. That wasn't anything. You guys made it a big deal. I'm glad Trump got past that. Yeah, he had to face some court challenges. A bunch of federal judge and whatever was striking it down, but he won in the end.
I'm just saying that was one of the things he got rid of. It has
but yeah, it was one thing he got rid of, but that didn't make it good. That didn't make it. It only says that that's what he said he was going to do. But let's talk about that agenda. Joe is actually just paying people back. You know, I got to give you something because you helped me get in here. Let me give you something because you helped me get in here. That's all this is a payback up front. But one of those executive orders, this is the 800-pound elephant in the room, and it's always a touchy subject, is his trans bill. I mean, on day one. But luckily, I think I printed it out here about a federal court that struck that down, at least this part. The issue that I was bringing up that I thought about was as pertains to higher education. So any schools receiving those federal dollars for what Title IX program, whichever one of those programs, certainly under the athletics, had to allow male trans students to participate in female sports. That is something that we didn't have to deal with, and that's something that could be dealt with a different way. So on day one, this is what you do. I mean, you really come in hot. There's no prepping. Hey, look, let's work this thing out. It's bam in your face. So I don't see a unity part from his agenda. But hey,
well, well, what about? I mean, there were some efforts, and the theme opening the door was this effort at unity. I don't think there's been a lot of unity since maybe Bush won. The last time I really think I saw some real unity was Bush won.
Okay.
Clinton starts out, he has a little unity, and suddenly everybody decides we want to get involved in his sex life. And that's when I think it kind of, and you, of course, you had the contract with America when Newt Gingrich came in and his whole crowd. I think that was 92 maybe. But I think we lost our cohesiveness and ability to do bipartisan stuff, you know, in any way, shape, or fashion. So I think it was kind of interesting that he did make a point, Biden did, of in the first week talking in terms of unity, but at the same time making it clear, unity or not, I'm going to govern. You all can sit around and squawk and complain, and you know, I think they said we're going to make him a one-term president even before he got elected. He'd only be there for 4 years, and some people said he won't even finish that. I mean, Sleepy Joe, he's only going to make it 2 years, and really the president's going to be Kamala. I'm saying that to say that I like the idea he's governing. Now, I'm not getting into whether I like it or don't like it or something else, but none of it seems to be in this first week without Trump. I think the mean-spiritedness of attacking people because of who and what they are seems to be fading real quickly. And that's what that Muslim ban was based on in my mind. It was attacking people simply because you're from some place dynamic, whatever it may be, and we're just going to ham you. Because if the idea was safety, I don't think there's been evidence of that. But anyway,
there's been safety. We hadn't had any attacks on our soil. We had it under Obama. We hadn't had any attacks.
Think about this. In the world, the only place you have attacks are in places where people have ongoing conflicts. Afghanistan, Iraq. But you're not having this broad-based, effort of attacks around the world. And some people would say that's connected to Trump's ability to throttle Iran and cut off its resources. It can't fund these things around the world like it could once when Obama released all those funds and gave them money. But I think in the first week without Trump, it seems that people, the nastiness seems to be leaving the room. It's like that one.
I'm not going to let you have that. You guys were doing all the cursing. You guys kept poking at the guy. And then when he responds, you guys go, look what this guy says about people. He's saying it about you guys. And it started.
So not you guys. There's a simple thing, and this is something that I think America's struggling with right now, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ability to disagree without being disagreeable and nasty. And that's what I think Trump really, he embodied being, if you disagree with me, and also I think that this week without Trump is kind of without him on Twitter. Is another factor. It's kind of really throttled his ability to, because the only place you get Trump comments is you go down to some of these deep, dark places where some goony people, hanging out, and they're still rattling like, maybe nobody told y'all, like I was reading on some website that somebody sent me about, they think that in any minute the military is going to go remove Joe Biden and restore Trump. I'm like, where do you people sleep at night? But they're waiting on this to happen, and we need to be ready. Like,
hopefully that was no post. I read some of those. Well, no, now they're going to remove.
It's going to be martial law. I mean, the military is going to take martial law, and that's why they brought the troops. That's why they had the troops at the Capitol. That was really to set up for them to take over. I mean, I just think that without Trump, I love that it looks like the tenor of civility is a little bit better across the board.
I cannot disagree more. I still hear the left saying it was all Trump, and from day one he's been like this jerk. He was
a jerk though.
Wait a minute, but pre day one, and you like to see what they said.
Listen, from the video breaking to Trump is always, he's a butthole. His language. I mean, even in the campaign when he was against those other 8 guys, everybody had a nasty nickname that was based on how they look. Little Rubio or Pocahontas. So that's not somebody that's trying to discuss the issue.
Well, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But you just said we have to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. So Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, you guys didn't cut them any slack from day.
But let's go right. But this week you heard Republicans and Democrats talking about how they disagree on what the country should do with impeachment. Nobody called anybody short or fat or dumpy or mean spirit. They just disagreed and kept talking. They talked about, we want this, we want that. They don't want to agree to that. But no one used that other nasty language. And I thought that was the first thing that jumped out at me in this week without Trump.
Well, here's the thing. You still could have had those conversations between those same factions with Trump there, those same parties. And just, if Trump not saying anything, they never called really each other names. But still what you're doing is trying to say it was all Trump. But let's go back to this week. You mentioned that they're saying, well, they want to make Joe a one-term president. Well, come on. Nancy Pelosi said before the guy was inaugurated, and certainly when like 70 Democrats skipped his inauguration saying that he was illegitimate, we have to get this guy out of here. Come on, you can't act like, as a matter of fact, Joe Biden has not faced anything that Trump's faced from his inauguration till 7 days? What's the day? Not even 7, 3 days. Still didn't face anything. So excuse me if I don't care anything about what someone said about Joe, and it's just that, because what you have touched on is Trump being banned. And guess what happened? Twitter, I think they even passed. I don't know how far they went down, but they had the lowest. So their stock plummeted in the first week, because Trump's been banned for almost 3 weeks now. Certainly over 2 full weeks. Their stock plummeted, and it's plummeted more. It's because the left and big tech have found this equal ground. They cohabitate in the same space, and they really have the same end goal. The left allows you this much leeway to disagree with them, but they want you to think that they're doing it for the greater good of the country. We don't need disinformation, but what do you call disinformation? To the Democrats on the left, disinformation is when it goes against what I really think. Now, if you say something other than that, and then you have the nerve to have someone else agree with you and disagree with me, Now you're in that shaky gray area of what they call
I thought they were drawing the line on if it's Wednesday
mm-hmm.
and you come on saying it's Tuesday, you're going to get blocked. Or you come on talking about killing people, butchering people, that taking over government, that kind of insurrection related items. Those are the areas where they're trying to get blocked. But this really comes out of what the United States government asked them to do under Trump. He wanted to crack down on a lot of those websites that were recruiting for Al Qaeda and a bunch of that other stuff.
Right.
And they were criticized for not being more diligent in how they address some of those issues. And so over time, they've gotten more and more aggressive. And then you get Trump come along with this crazy fraud stuff about the election. And then you had his supporters coming in talking about storm the Capitol and, hang Pence. And
how did you get here? We went through a whole summer, and let's not forget Snoop Dogg talked about shooting the president. Eminem talked about shooting the president. None of them were ever banned. And let's not talk about the other chick who.
Here's what I'm saying though: it's not the one comment, because I think what happens, you get a warning. If you pipe it down, no. If when you say something crazy, they flag you and they ask you to take it down, or retract it or whatnot. And if you do, then hey, you go ahead. But this guy, I mean. And it wasn't really Trump that really got him banned. It was really the followers, those weirdos, and as Hillary would call those, the deplorables that he attracted, who would then say crazy stuff.
But here's the thing. We have weirdos in our family. Do you not let your family eat at the table because they have some type of...
The Clint Parish will ban you from my house. You don't get a free pass, and not no, buddy. You're coming up in here with that foolishness.
All right. Well, I have a comment, and I think this is definitely goes along with what I'm trying to say, and I need to get a little close. All those fact-checking websites just so happen to disappear as if no more misinformation is being released. Censorship is not freedom of speech, no matter how you spin it. And see, to you, Clint, I spend my days. I teach a basic computer information class, so I spend a lot of my time on information literacy, and we talk about different websites and content. I have been shadow banned on Instagram, Instagram was the one that I picked up. I don't spend a whole lot of my time on any of those, but I do go on Twitter, just kind of reading comments. And I was shadow banned or really temporarily suspended because I liked a comment that they perceived as going against their community. And it was a joke about something. This was early on in Trump's presidency. So my point is to this person, and I think it's DJ Anna. And let me read this follow-up comment. No, they ban people for not saying what the majority says, meaning mainstream media. If mainstream media doesn't approve of it, it gets dismissed. We have independent research teams that get censored because it goes against the grain. And she's certainly correct about that. And this is why part of what, we've talked about, what I want to see happen as far as how we go forward is conservative speech, independent research that goes against the culture is being squelched. And people unknowingly say, no, the reason why they did it is because you said something wrong. And it is not wrong at all. Research is supposed to be independent research. You shouldn't plan an outcome and then back into it. So independent research is this, you have a problem.
Whoa. What is the thesis? Isn't that what you do?
No, that's why research and so many studies are so bad. You have a question, you have a hypothesis, but you gather data and you do some type of scientific method. But see, I'm glad you said that. That's when you hear such things like studies, that dwindles down because there's no real scientific method that goes with studies because it's so subjective. But objective research is when you have an hypothesis, you have a research question, you gather data, and then you go through scientific rigor. And whatever comes out of that, not a pre-planned outcome.
Yeah.
Now you can
and in a perfect world, you would get that level of objectivity, I think, from people in a perfect world. the unfortunate thing is everybody comes to the table with their own biases and agendas. Everybody.
But I thought that's what made us the melting pot. See, that's what used to be why people wanted to have the conversation, because I can hear
Let's
what
stop that. Oh,
everybody
no,
has
no,
to
no,
say.
no. There is no melting here. There's a tolerance. America's always been it's tolerated for benefit, and particularly as it pertains to us. No one's ever been trying to melt with us in this country. We've been tolerated and allowed to exist and function. And hey, we're not going to say anything to you guys, and you don't bother us. There's a lot of that. I say that's melting more tolerance. But let me go back over to this thing about the free speech
Mm-hmm.
and the discussion. I just don't know that people have a right to get on Twitter and say whatever you want to say. It's a private company. It's not the town square. And it's not the government coming in. It's me at my house. At my house, if I don't like what you say, you gotta go. You gotta
Okay.
leave.
Okay.
Or if I decide to let you. And so I'm just really not inclined to dictate to, the Washington Post, you've got or Fox News, you've got to put liberals on your station. Because guess what? Fox News doesn't. That's not it's what they want to put on their private station.
Uh, Fox News has several liberal. That's why Fox News, as a matter of
Like
fact,
who?
Fox
Like
News has
who?
lost its ratings.
Who's liberal on Fox?
Uh, uh, Donna Brazil. What do you mean?
She comes in for 2 seconds and on
She
at
is. She's the latest
she's not
addition.
host. She's not running a show. She didn't have a show, and she's only there. She's like Juan Williams. The four of them on the five.
Yeah, I
Say
agree.
something, Juan, and half the time they won't let Juan finish his comment, boy. They're yelling at him.
You
Now,
know, I told him that too. I actually told Juan that when I saw him here. I
Juan
said, "You
says
tell Jesse
they
stop
keep
interrupting."
whenever he brings it up, they double his contract. So so he's like, look, it's fodder. But I'm just saying that we have this idea that people are entitled to this forum to communicate is, I think, a little bit
You're talking about Twitter.
forward. But let me ask you this: so moving over to Joe a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
I had this impression from the right because all I listen to is conservative radio, conservative shows, conservative. I read,
Man, that's why you're losing your hair.
Yeah,
that's why
I
you
know.
keep it shaved.
It's the floor because I know whatever they say, it's the worst it can be. Right?
Okay.
It's the worst.
Okay.
And so I want to know from the worst because I don't want to get confused that with some of the more liberal shows like on MSNBC or CNN, which may create too much of a flowery situation that's not realistic. And if I fall for that, I'm just as dangerous. So I know the bottom, the worst it can be is what I hear on Newsmax or what I hear over here from Sean Hannity or what I hear from Breitbart or wherever it may be, abandoned. And so I look at all that stuff. I had this impression that Joe was like almost asleep, and boom, he comes in. He's all over the place with his actions. What happened to Sleepy Joe? Where did Sleepy Joe go?
Joe is still sleeping. I just said I answered that. He just paid. He already had some people he had to pay. Now BLM, Black Lives Matter, is on him. All right, Joe. You signed this executive order, good. You signed that executive order. They're waiting for their payout. So Joe came in. I mean, he had to pay people. So he's getting around. But let's not get it confused. Joe's been around for 48 years, or is this 49 years? I mean, the bucket list president is finally there. He should have a lot to do. You've been trying to get in there for 48 years, so I'm 17 seems to be okay. 17 executive orders. But and I'm being facetious, but still, if you notice, DJ Anna hit on something. Have you noticed? You said that, oh man, since Trump is gone, what I get from what you said is the temperature went down. You know how Joe said we need to lower the temperature. You noticed that. That's why you mentioned that, right?
Right.
How about the outsider is gone? So now guess what? It's just us. We lie to each other. Okay, I'm gonna let you do this. And in the back room, here's what I'm gonna say when we get on the Senate floor. You know, I'm just saying that. I don't really mean it. You get your turn. Okay, because you know we have this bill. So I mean, it's all the deal. And that to me, it only underscores, and I'm glad I left the Republican Party. This show has brought me into this whole political process that is sickening. And one thing I hate a way, I mean, to me, the law of the land on the street, I hate a two-faced person. I mean, if you don't like me, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. I grew up with rednecks. And the thing about a redneck is he didn't like me and I didn't care for him. But there was a mutual respect. You don't cross this line and say anything to me or do anything to my family, and I'm not going to do anything to you. But at least I know where you stand. But this Republican, Mitch McConnell, what he's doing, dead giveaway. They weren't Trump supporters. And like I said before, they had to hold their nose and keep their head down because until Trump came up for re-election, he was still a beast. And if you stepped out of line, using that street language, he'd bust you in the head, right in the head, and primary you and get you out of there. So, I mean, now Trump's gone. It's back to Washington as usual. You don't know who's telling the truth.
I mean, of course you don't. I mean, anytime, the whole saying, how do you know a politician's lying? His mouth, his lips are moving. But I understand that, but they didn't like Trump before he came.
Right.
They didn't like him when he was in office, which is no big deal. But there's a benefit that the Republican Party had from him. And my question now I'm trying to figure out is, how do they play this with Joe? Because the first thing I'm finding out with him is, and I hope a lot of people, hey, this guy's not as big a boob as you thought he was. He ain't like almost, he's ready to govern. And, he's working full days. That to me was the whole idea of dispelling the first argument that had been made over this long time that he was, sleepy Joe, he needs a nap. Blah, 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 blah. Well, he's already got legislation going up to Congress. I mean, the number of things that he's moving along on so quickly, and he's talking about this the new relief bill. I don't think anybody can make the argument now. He's sleepy, he's incompetent, he's physically not up for the job. I think the argument needs to go someplace else, which I think brings the temperature down. You got to talk about how you disagree with this governing, and you're shaking your in the words of the old press, the guy at the Trump press secretaries. Stop shaking your head.
Joe is not doing this. So to be impressed with what legislation he's had, Joe's not doing this. Nancy Pelosi had most of that stuff written, and Joe just sign this thing. You don't know what you're talking about. Joe gaffed just the other day. As a matter of fact, he's had two, but I know you saw this one. His earpiece. He's walking into the door, him and the first lady. They said, salute the Marines. Joe says, salute the Marines. He says it. He does not salute the Marines. They were telling him. Salute the Marines are at the door. Joe says salute the Marines, and he went and walked right on in. Joe is clueless. So any legislation that pops up, it's not because Joe worked overnight, was burning in midnight oil. Come on. And only the left believes that. Just like you guys accuse us of being, draconian, we just follow somehow. Trump has us in some type of trance, and we just don't know because with Trump.
Oh, no. Here's why people said this about Republicans. Donald Trump did things that were contrary to Republican principles and dogma. Mm-hmm. That was why people were like, wait a minute, why would Republicans go along with all this deficit spending? Why would they go along with some of this stuff Trump's doing? Because this is not traditional conservative value stuff. It's completely contrary to that. And that's why people would say it. People just went along because of what you said earlier. Trump would, rear back and clunk you on the head, and pretty much he ran everybody out of Washington. He disagreed with them. So I think this first week that we've gotten from Joe Biden so far is a return to normalcy. But let's do this. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this morning. I want to get to the inauguration itself, talk about that, people's feelings about reality and other stuff. Also the impeachment, whether it's constitutional. And if we get to it, the virus and the economy. So let me give out the call-in number for our show. If you're there, the call-in number is 929-205-6099. That's 929-205-6099 if you want to call into our show. And also you can call into the normal number at WTMP. This is In-Text News Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be a star. We will be right back after this quick break.
missing church?
Yes!
Well, you don't have to. Listen in every Sunday to Reverend Dr. Maurice Johnson. Voice your victory from the Memphis Christian Center at 11 a.m. Central Time and 12 noon Eastern Time on In Touch Radio.
This brutal weather that we experience every year in Florida leaves hundreds of residents needing repairs to their property. If your home has been damaged or needs remodeling, leave it to the professionals. Call Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing at 813-238-6197. That's 813-238-6197. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing have been serving the community for 43 years. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing is a proud sponsor of Jazz at Miss Connie's house.
Okay, all right, we're back. So, here he is.
Yeah, all right, so we're back here live on Intouch News Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be a star. Again, my name is Clinton Paris, and no, I am not in studio or in my perched up on the patio at my house. I am actually in a parking lot in Lakeland at a cheerleading competition. State champions, the Strawberry Crest High School varsity competitive cheerleading team is vying for its 7th straight state championship. And so that goes on 11:30. So I'm out in the parking lot doing the show. When it's over, I'm racing inside and get my pom-poms up and bring the thing home, Professor. We're gonna bring it home. I got my cheer shirt on. I'm in full dad mode. So.
I can only tilt my hat to you, buddy. You've definitely been consistent with that. Now, I would do the same thing. And my daughter was only on the cheer squad once, as far as this national thing. But I definitely understand.
So absolutely. So I appreciate you accommodating me in this situation. But before we took our break, I gave out the call-in number. I did not give out the ID. Let me give that real quick. So if you're trying to call into the show on Zoom, the call-in number is 929-205-6099. It may ask you for an ID. If it does, you want to put in this ID. Write it down. 834-088 74026 834-088-74026. Or you can call into the station. The station number is 813-444-9588. 813-444-9588. So, Professor, we've agreed that Washington is detoxing on Trump.
We haven't agreed on anything.
Sleepy Joe is not so sleepy. And we saw that during the inauguration. I've been to a couple of those. I went to Obama's inauguration. It is a really patriotic and motivating moment. What were your overall thoughts about the inauguration and the activities?
Well, I believe that Chris Wallace is just showing his true colors when he said of his speech that it was the best he'd ever heard. And he put that in the context of he's been listening since 1961 with John F. Kennedy. I'm like, really? And this was the best you've ever heard? Once again, this whole fawning over, I have to say this. I messed my plug up coming into the show. Here is my thing for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a TV dinner. And all kinds of...
Whoa. Say that again.
He's a TV dinner. A TV dinner. You know what? Came out in the 70s, still around, had to heat them up. They're not really that good, but they'll do because you don't have anything else. Joe Biden, ladies and gentlemen, our 46th president, the TV dinner. So about the speech, I didn't listen to it. Just like I don't listen to Trump. I was forward about that. And I'm certainly not going to listen to a guy who I don't think should be there. But I did look at the transcript. So, I don't like to really take people's second opinion. So I did look at the transcript. On its face, if it were true, I'd be like, man, these next 4 years will bring America closer to some semblance of a United States of America. But he quickly, in action and in words, went away from it. So I did highlight it here. And this was a part of his speech. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. A cry for survival comes from the planet itself. Oh, how sweet of him. A cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear now. A rise for political extremism, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat. But my issue with that is, yep, I know who you're talking about with the white supremacy. Yeah. I know the political extremism that you're alluding to. What I don't know is who's a domestic terrorist? Are we talking about BLM and Antifa, or are we just talking about the Proud Boys? Because if you want to unify and if you want everybody, including the 74 million that voted for Trump, to have some reason that you, career politician, are really trying to bring us back, then I need for you to kind of acknowledge who's been a pain in our butt. And that's been Black Lives Matter, the terrorist part, not the concept, and Antifa. Because we witnessed a whole summer and you didn't say anything, but you show up with these, like you guys call them these dog whistles that you do here. That's what y'all said of Trump when he would say certain things, these dog whistles. But that's what I have here. So, and he failed to mention those. He didn't even call the cancel culture. And that's what conservatives suffer from. We need to defeat that. We need to be able to speak because we have legitimate thought and they're not rehearsed. And so just because they don't match up with you guys don't mean we should be canceled or subjected to something on one side. But you asked me about it, so I gave you a little piece.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I thought the speech touched on the reality of America at the moment.
We have a caller.
The future vision that he provided may be different than what other folks. It was clear the connectivity. When I listened to Donald Trump's speech, it seemed I didn't know what he was where he was even connecting those things to reality. I can agree that people disagree with the speech. He delivered it well. Watch me now. It wasn't too long. He didn't fall asleep. I mean, some other people fell asleep, but he didn't fall asleep.
Bill Clinton fell asleep. Yeah.
Some other folks fell asleep. And I thought for him, he met the moment where he needed to be in that inauguration speech. And then we move out from there into the rest of the inauguration celebration process. Now, I'm gonna throw you a bone, Professor. And that was the backlash of him going to the White House, immediately signing an executive order, you must wear masks on federal property, and promptly going over to, I think, was it the monument?
Yeah, the Lincoln. Exactly. I need a picture without this mask, y'all.
You'll get, that's right. You go now, and I thought about that in comparison to Donald Trump coming from the hospital, standing at the White House rail, and taking his mask off.
All right, well, we have a call. We have a caller into the show.
Okay, let's get the caller on.
Hey, caller, who do we have? Go ahead, caller. Hey, do we have you? This is Straight Up the Middle. Can you hear us? Okay, and I don't think the caller, he or she can hear.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I've called in, I've had that issue on my as well, being able to be heard before, so I can understand that. So, if you try to hang up and give us a call back, we would appreciate that. Maybe we can get figured out.
But give the caller the show number. I think the caller came in through the
Okay, excellent. But so to inaugurate, I mean, under these circumstances, I thought that was quite an interesting window to what may, because he was like, listen, you're gonna get some pictures of me up here without this mask on. But I didn't think the media responded as vociferously in that moment as they did when Trump took his mask off. Was that your read as well?
Okay, you know what? Sometimes, man, you surprise me. You can go, you're way over there, but sometimes you come close to that middle line. And I appreciate that. Because, yeah, exactly. But we I took it a bit further. Well, it's typical because there's something else that happened. He took that mask off. I had, I don't think he said how many people died in the 2 days that, as of his inauguration. I don't think he mentioned a number. Well, because had it been Trump, they would have been saying 100,000 people died today, 100,000 people died yesterday. There's no mention of that because he didn't want that to taint his day, his moment. And I'm not necessarily mad at him.
But other people, hold on for a minute. But other people did. I mean, are you saying that every day Trump would talk? Trump never talked about the number of people dying.
No. You're right. He didn't. He didn't have to. You guys did. Why would he? He didn't need to. There's certain things you don't have to say. Bad, like he said in his book, and we know bad publicity is also publicity. So
well, they were talking yesterday was the most people died in the whole pandemic yesterday, and there was a lot of discussion about that.
Exactly.
Fauci.
That's where the number comes from. 100,000 people, right?
No 100,000 yesterday. 4,000 people died. Now, another piece of backlash, a correlation. I'm see if you get this here. So many years ago, the Dixie Chicks got in trouble for some comments they made about the Iraq War. Well, Garth Brooks agreed to come and sing at the inauguration. And he's gotten a lot of backlash from his supporters saying, listen, we're going to remember you for participating. You think that's a fair assessment? All he did is sing the national anthem.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment because there are so many people, artists, who would love to. Hence what happened with Belichick. In any other time, had Trump won re-election, I don't think Belichick would not have taken that. But because the left and the cancel culture went after any artist that showed any support, how dare you perform at this racist orange man's anything, they run him out of business. You know what Garth Brooks said? That was him trying to get some business back. You know what? I need some more sales. I'm going to participate because obviously these guys control what's going to come in through, social media.
I mean, that kind of lends itself towards kind of a pandering to power, and I understand that. I don't think people on your side of this, the Trump venue, appreciate how detestable he was as a person to be it's kind of like some like I said in my business, some clients, people come to me for legal services, they have all the trappings of what they need, but they're just detestable people. They're repugnant. And I'm like, I won't represent you. That's kind of where Donald Trump kind of put himself, so he ends up, having to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get people to perform. I thought it was surprising to me we had this Garth Brooks coming in along with Jennifer Lopez and others to perform, without that kind of a dispute. And then, of course, Garth Brooks, of course, gets this huge backlash.
Because Garth Brooks is on our side. J-Lo is on you guys' side.
Whoa. Is he on your side?
No. Well, as far as the whole country music, that tends to lend itself.
I think that is the flaw. That's the flaw that everybody makes. Everybody assumes that Lil Wayne is on the liberal side because he's in the rap music. They the same thing with James Brown. James like, hey, I'm at the White House with Nixon, y'all.
Well, they're exceptions to the rule. Hey, listen, they're exceptions to the rule because when I get my hair cut and I don't even talk politics anymore, everybody assumes I'm a Democrat because guess what? Okay, so we know why. So don't act like, that's a flaw. It's inherent. It's what we do. Every black person is a Democrat until you tell them otherwise. It's just
we'll leave that where it is. That's another whole dynamic. I thought the inauguration with the aspect of the limitation of the virus turned out to be relatively patriotic. The flags on the mall, the lighting, the candles, the fireworks.
All right.
The elections.
Before you move away from that, though, patriotic. So let's talk what happened with the National Guard. If it's so patriotic and this whole hype that we needed all this security because, we fear what's going to happen with this mob breakout again that didn't happen. Do you think that was really why they brought him there? They just wanted to act like the right is so out of control now, we need armed militia.
I read some articles over on Breitbart that they brought him there because they were getting ready for martial law. And everybody was waiting. In the middle of the night, they're supposed to get up and take positions.
So that's why they brought him there. They don't have any better intel than that. You mean to tell me the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, who use drones and hit people way over in Tehran, all these other places, you don't know that that's not going to happen?
I don't think. Here's what I think they want. They wanted such a show of force because they didn't want anybody trying anything, so that nobody would get hurt. But look, we're almost out. We're getting short on time, and I wouldn't be fair if I did give you enough time to talk about the impeachment.
Okay.
Really kind of, because one, it's the trial is going to happen now. It's going to happen. You've made some comments about Mitch McConnell. Right. He's going to play a major role in this because he is now the most powerful Republican in Washington. So people wanting any type of access to power on the Republican side, you kind of got to line up behind Mitch McConnell. Would you agree with that?
I agree. If you're trying to seek committee seats, yeah.
Anything though, I want, funding and all kind of stuff for my reelection and whatnot, because they have to decide. Because Mitch McConnell is kind of tacitly letting this thing move along.
Right.
He's not overt, but he was pretty strong the other day saying, hey, look, Donald Trump fed everybody a bunch of lies.
Just like the weasel he is. But go ahead. Well, but this is another thing. Okay. So about the impeachment, and you're right, but I saw it coming, and I've been saying it long before Trump's last day. We've been talking about this for months. These cowards in there. I mean, if you don't support it, say you don't support it, but at some point there was this wave of people, and I'm not even going to address why they did it, but the Ted Cruz and all these people. I'm surprised Mike Lee didn't jump in that group that was saying, hey, about this whole Electoral Act of 1887. But as we move toward what we knew was happening, that Nancy was going to drop these articles of impeachment. And since he's been impeachment for, and like everybody else, if they're honest, that's the first time since most of us didn't pay attention with Bill. That's the first time in recent history that we've had to deal with the whole impeachment thing. So we've gone through that one time, and there was a hearing, and there were, supposed to be some type of witness and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that Nancy brought that to the floor, it was a foregone conclusion. And the reason why they're going to do it is because they don't want Trump to run again. I think they're making a fatal mistake because, first of all, I don't think it's going to pass because if my understanding, and I heard this on, I don't listen to Breitbart, I think it was Newsmax, might be Greg Kelly. They need 17 Republicans to go along in the Senate. They need 17 to break ranks. They'll get, Mitch. Yeah, I believe that. I think they may get maybe an acquittal. So, I'm sorry, they can't be a charge. He won't be convicted. So then I'm imagining there's only an acquittal. That's the only thing that can happen. You don't get charges dismissed. You're acquitted, right? In the impeachment realm. And that's more of a question. But I don't see it happening. But what I see is them making a fatal mistake that the American public, and if they were looking at numbers and what we know, the polling is a scam. But if you're looking at numbers, Trump did well with everyday type thinking people. We don't like destroying someone's job just because. So this guy's down. As far as I'm concerned, the election was rigged and he's out. Mission accomplished. Anything past that is spiteful and is mean-spirited, and you will have your day. And that's shown itself so many times. So to even carry it past this, to carry it into, because we know Chuck Schumer is going to do it. He don't like Trump. He's going to do it. But I think who normally sides with these type things is the West Virginia.
Manchin?
Yeah, Manchin.
He's a Democrat, though.
That's what I'm saying. So they're going to lose one of that. He normally just, I don't think he'll go along with it because he sees what it is. And I don't think anyone's denied what it is. They're banking on the fact that it's some type of high crime. And even you said, and we talked about, because you said that Trump can't use these innuendos, what people said. If he didn't say, you have his words, and his words are general words, you can't imply something. So you don't have any evidence that
That's
he.
what that's going to be, I think, the big one right there. You mentioned no evidence, and I think that's what this is about. I don't think if I'm listening to Nancy and kind of watching this, they want to tell the whole story, and so far they've not been able to, of what happened. And I don't think they're going to start at the Capitol. I think they're going to start with the underlying strategy of Donald Trump to undermine the election. Okay. They're going to go way back. And I think the storyline is going to be one of, this was his tactic to do something to confuse the election all along. And the ultimate decision was to stop American government from imposing what had been decided by the people. And when they finish with that whole story, I think the plan is going to be to suck in names like Ted Cruz and Hawley and a lot of these people that could be rising stars in the Republican Party, and dirty up their names, and really dirty their names. And I tell you, if you go back and look at what happened after the Nixon resignation,
mm-hmm.
the Republicans assisted in scrubbing out a bunch of people that were leaders.
Okay.
And their plan was they hoped not only the Gerald Ford or Reagan would come in 76 and win. And unfortunately, they cleared the deck and Jimmy Carter snuck in there and won it. But you never saw any of those people associated with Nixon ever again who had been his defenders, because Nixon was extremely popular when he resigned. No Republican senator had indicated that they were in favor of impeachment. So leading up to that moment, the actual resignation. So I think that that's really what may be afoot here, is less about Donald Trump. I think Trump is done. It's the other people that could be power players in the next 3-4 years that they want to tie this whole thing around their necks and make people make a choice to America. Were you with these folks trying to stop the election? Because there are a lot of people that disagree with the election, but they disagree with not following what had been decided.
Well, okay, but the whole story, from what I understand, is there's intel that Nancy Pelosi knew of some factors, some agents, some people who they knew that there was a plot of some sort. So if she wants to tell the whole story, I don't have any way of confirming this, but it was talked about pretty openly on one of the networks. So if there's more to that, then she has to tell on herself, which we know she won't do.
Well, no, that's different. It's different. Somebody coming and telling you something's about to happen, and you being complicit in the conducting of what happened and planning it.
But my point is, if something was going to happen before I gave a speech, how can I be tied to something that was going to happen? Here's the thing, but like you said, follow me here. What came first was something's going to happen that was related to Nancy Pelosi, but days before Donald Trump gave the speech. So how can you say it's Donald Trump's fault when you knew something was being planned? You were told something was being planned before the president gives his speech. Now you could
listen. Look, she's in office. She's good to go. If that's the case, if something was planned, all they got to do is attach that to Donald Trump. Look, I'm looking at the clock. Yep. As always, the hour flies by. Man. What closing comments? We didn't get to the virus and the economy. What a great job Joe has done getting us a real virus plan in play. We'll talk about that next week. But your closing comments.
My closing comments were the same coming in. Look for what Joe Biden says, and then try to make sense out of, was this a new idea or was this something that was already in the works? Now Joe is at the helm, so Joe signs it into effect. The whole, I'm just noticing how they're opening up the economy. New York was saying, we can't close down anymore. We need to open up. So the big picture, it was never about the virus. It was all about Donald Trump. So if they can make that case, Donald Trump may have a different history written about him.
Listen, the drumbeat of burying Donald Trump for everything he's ever done is only getting started. You think you've seen books. They hadn't been written yet. But then listen, we're going to pick this up next week. Going to get to the economy, talk about the virus. Where and when can somebody get a vaccine? Because I need to get in line somewhere myself. You know, my age.
I get that one. Hank Aaron died 15 days after he got his, right? I getting it, buddy.
All right, but anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You've been listening to Intex News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. We'll catch you back here next week. Take care, Professor.
All right, enjoy, man. Good luck.
All right, bye-bye. Go Chris.